Jimmy Carter was in his 50s when he retired from the presidency. He had many productive years left. How did Jimmy Carter plan to live out his retirement? What are his reflections on the virtues of aging? And what exactly is old? How can you find meaning in your retirement? And how can you stay healthy and active in your retirement? Please, we welcome interesting questions in the comments. Let us learn and reflect together. At the end of our talk, we'll discuss the sources used for this video. Please feel free to follow along in the PowerPoint script we uploaded to SlideShare, which includes illustrations. Our sister blog includes footnotes, and both include our Amazon book links. Jimmy Carter was an unlikely president. He was not expected to win the presidential race in 1976, but he was a highly effective campaigner. Jimmy Carter was an evangelical Christian from Plains, Georgia, where he grew up on a small family farm with a neighborhood general store. After graduating from the local high school and attending a community college, he was accepted into the Naval Academy at Annapolis. He had lived through many transitions. As a boy, he had helped his father plow their fields with teams of horses and mules. But as a young submariner, was selected to train for a leadership position on a nuclear submarine. Jimmy Carter also lived in the transition from the segregationist Jim Crow culture to a society more open to civil rights initiatives, granting greater equality and opportunity to the many blacks in northern rural Georgia. Jimmy Carter, in his race for the presidency, benefited from the public loss and confidence in politicians after President Richard Nixon's resignation when he was facing impeachment in the Watergate scandal. Who could be trusted more than Jimmy Carter, the small-town Baptist Sunday school teacher? Although he was a one-term president, he had many successes and many challenges, including a challenging economy and the lengthy Iran hostage crisis that eventually cost him his election. Carter streamlined many governmental agencies and led several deregulation efforts, deregulating the railroads and the airlines. And during his term, Castro allowed many Cuban citizens to escape via the Mariel boat lift, which inspired the Scarface movie, starring Robert De Niro. Jimmy Carter had many foreign policy successes and peace initiatives during his presidency. He concluded the Panama Canal Treaty, which several presidents before him knew was inevitable, but they delayed the negotiations, knowing how unpopular it would be for many Americans. Although the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan worsened relationships at the end of his presidency, he had negotiated the SALT II nuclear arms limitation treaty at the beginning of his administration. And Jimmy Carter's main foreign policy accomplishment was the Camp David peace talks between the Israeli leader Menachim and the Egyptian leader Anwar Sadat. Included in his daily devotions were many fascinating stories of his interactions with foreign leaders. But after that, he faced early retirement. And Jimmy Carter's humor subhead for the first chapter quips, "Experience is what you've got plenty of when you're no longer able to hold the job." Jimmy Carter opens his book on the virtues of aging, recalling, "I was just 56 years old when I was involuntarily retired from my position in the White House. What made losing the job even worse was that it was a highly publicized event, with maybe half the people in the world knowing about my embarrassing defeat." Jimmy Carter realized that as ex-president, he still had considerable prestige that could be wielded for good. He had always been active in Habitat for Humanity, and as president, he and Rosalind had initiated many health, education, peace, and anti-poverty initiatives to better the lives of ordinary people. So why not continue these efforts? So, attached to his planned presidential library in Atlanta would be the offices of his nonprofit Carter Center, initiating and continuing these many initiatives. He had some immediate financial challenges. In his retirement, both Jimmy and Rosalind Carter discovered they could earn healthy royalties from publishing books about their lives and about their experiences, opinions, and future projects. One of these books is on the virtues of aging. Now, Jimmy is not a Cicero, but we will listen to him on his front porch while he provides prescient advice. Jimmy Carter asks, "Whom do we consider to be old?" Jimmy Carter recollects, "In general, our own age determines whom we consider to be an old person. When I was in the Navy and serving on my first ships, I assumed that officers and men who were retiring after 20 years of service were old, and that those who held on for a maximum of 30 years were almost too set in their ways to deal with the changing realities of modern Navy life." Jimmy Carter comments that Bismarck was age 74 when he first set the retirement age at 70 in Germany in 1889, when the average life expectancy was about 45. He recounts how many more people were able to retire with the passage of the Social Security Act under FDR in the Depression. When my father was born in 1894, more than 75% of 65-year-old men continued to work. Even when I resigned from the Navy in 1953, about half of the able-bodied men at that age were still working. Just 45 years later, the proportion of 65-year-olds still working has dropped to only 17% and is now holding steady. Americans over 65 years of age outnumber teenagers, and most of us are well and able to lead full and vigorous lives. Now, Jimmy Carter wrote this book in 1998, over 25 years ago. Now in 2024, we have two men running for president who will both be octogenarians during that term of office. Both sides criticize the other for being too old and slow and feeble, but admittedly, they are both quite sharp for their age. Jimmy Carter quotes a recent US Today poll on what success means to Americans. Satisfaction with life, being in control, a good marriage, being good at one's job, ability to afford important things, and successful children. Now, admittedly, when you're retired, you lose the ability to plan for some of these things, but you still control what you do with the remaining time on Earth. Jimmy Carter says that psychologists list these steps for success, which for retirement means successfully managing your time so you can continue to contribute to society. Conceive our important goals. Focus on things we can control. Fix one problem at a time. Divide long-term goals into manageable parts, being satisfied with small steps. Jimmy Carter has sage observations. Our legitimate human ambitions often cause us anger, envy, suffering, pain, frustration, and sense of inadequacy that deprive us of inner peace and joy. He offers encouragement that's especially helpful for those who retire. It is a sign of maturity when we can accept honestly and courageously that frustrated dreams, illness, disability, and eventual death are all normal facets of a person's existence. And that despite these, we can still continue to learn, grow, and adopt challenging goals. Retirement can be challenging for those who face their retirement years alone, either because they're widows or widowers or are divorced. It was sad to hear sweet women in my divorce support meetings who had mourned that they would not live out their happy retirement years with their husband who had left them for one reason or another. Often men find that they're estranged from at least some of their children, although they had attempted to keep their marriage together. And Jimmy Carter doesn't offer much encouragement here, since he was fortunate to be married to his first wife, whom he married when they were young. And when I was a facilitator for my divorce support group, I simply observed that their relationships with their ex-spouse and children will either improve or decline. And that reconciliation usually means that everyone is slightly less angry and slightly more caring today than they were yesterday. And never give up and keep reaching out for as long as you live. Jimmy Carter recommends volunteering for the National Senior Service Corps. You can volunteer to work as foster grandparents, help older neighbors with bills, shopping, and local transportation, as well as provide care for those suffering from strokes, diabetes, and Alzheimer's. Now recently I joined a local Rotary Club. Although most members are over 40, they welcome members of any age. Rotary is primarily a service organization contributing to and assisting local and national charities. And the dues vary from club to club, and you can visit a number of local clubs to find one you like. The Rotary four-way test is appealing to me. The things we say or do: is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? My cause is publicizing and assisting the Alzheimer's Association. Based on my experience as a condominium officer that has had to deal with elderly residents suffering from dementia. And our YouTube channel has a playlist for psychology, including dementia. Some, including Jimmy Carter, would argue that having an active social life is a fourth magical factor to further your health. So, Jimmy Carter reminds you to be sure to kiss your spouse each morning and keep them happy. But if you're single, or regardless of your relationship status, if you want more friends and are over 55, there's a new online site called Stitch that basically allows you to attend activities to widen your social circle. Everyone who wants to live a long and healthy life needs to know what are the three magic cures for most everything that ails you: proper diet, exercise, and proper sleep. We discussed the DASH diet, which is similar to the Mediterranean diet, in a prior reflection. How much exercise? If you're a couch potato, more than you're exercising now. How can exercise help improve your brain and your memory? Your brain consumes much of the oxygen you breathe in, and when you exercise, your brain gets more oxygen, promoting better brain health. And the elderly need more sleep than they did when they were younger. Jimmy Carter advises us to be active. He quotes a study that states that half of those over 75 are couch potatoes, and only a fifth exercise regularly. Moderate exercise can dramatically improve our lung capacity, bone strength, and mental sharpness. His best advice is to use recreation to preserve health rather than to use medicine and treatments to regain health. And the Carter Center sponsored a health conference called Closing the Gap, and their advice for better health is: do not smoke, maintain recommended body weight, exercise regularly, minimize consumption of foods high in cholesterol and saturated fats, sugar, and salt. Don't drink excessively, and never drive while drinking. Fasten seatbelts. Remove handguns from the home. Have regular medical checkups, including blood pressure tests. And Jimmy and Rosalind kept in shape during their elder years. In his 70s, Jimmy was running 3 miles a day rather than the 7 miles when he was president, or he would bike 10 or 15 miles. He bragged that he and Rosalind climbed over 1,000 feet above the Mount Everest base camp. He also climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. And he and Rosalind also skied and played tennis. Perhaps this is the best advice Jimmy Carter offers us. As anyone who visits a nursing home can deduce, the average older person now watches television 43 hours each week. Jimmy Carter says, Confucius emphasized contemplation, self-revelation, and good living in every stage of existence, with self-discipline and beneficence to others as common aims. He taught that in youth we must guard against lust. In middle age we must guard against strife, avoiding aggressive acts to reach personal goals. And in old age we must guard against avarice, avoiding clinging to what we have, including life itself. Jimmy Carter puzzled about this verse from Ecclesiastes. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the cloud will not reap. What was Solomon trying to tell us? He explained to his Sunday school class. Don't be too cautious. Take a chance. If you wait for perfect conditions, you may end up living a timid and diminished life. The prospect of failure always exists, and it is painful and embarrassing when we do fail. But it is better to fail while striving for something adventurous and uncertain than to say, I won't try, because I may not succeed completely. Jimmy Carter adds, our primary purpose in our golden years is not just to stay alive as long as we can, but to savor every opportunity for pleasure, excitement, adventure, and fulfillment. Plus, we have summaries of inspirational daily devotions from Jimmy Carter. Now we'll discuss the source we use for this video. Jimmy Carter's Virtues of Aging is a short and inspirational read. We left out how he was inspired by his old naval boss, Admiral Rickover, and several family members and acquaintances, including staff from the Carter Center. The YouTube description includes a link to our PowerPoint script that we uploaded to SlideShare and also our blog. Please support this channel by sharing this video with your friends and by clicking on the like and subscribe buttons and by clicking on the Amazon links to purchase any of the books we discussed, which will earn us a very small affiliate commission. And please consider becoming a patron of our channel. Plus, we will host special discussion groups for our patrons. Plus, you can click on the Meetup or small M icon to participate in our online discussions, where we practice our future YouTube scripts. And please click on the links for other videos that will broaden your knowledge and improve your soul.